As we discussed in yesterday's videos, Friday was a brutal day for the Republican Party, particularly in the House of Representatives, and that triggered a very bitter rant from Fox News commentator Laura Ingraham, which we have to discuss. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bell before you go. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, friends, so we have several clips to play from last night's Ingram report, in which Laura Ingraham, very upset, very bitter, goes on a long tirade ranting against her own party, the Republican Party, for their dysfunction, their stupidity, their inability to responsibly govern, or to even be politically effective once they're in power. And then she's joined by former Republican Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. We're going to unpack all of this, but again, just prepare yourselves, folks, for maximum schadenfreude. It's so good, so exquisite.
Well, Mike Gallagher made an affirmative decision to give Democrats more power, since the GOP majority will now be down to 1. So, what if someone has a delayed flight, gets sick? There is zero room for error. And this is key. Had Gallagher walked out today, Wisconsin would have been able to have a special emergency election to fill his seat. But now, because he's putting it off till April 19th, it remains vacant until next year. Again, this pains me to say this. Thanks, Mike. Hope future Speaker Hakeem Jeffries sent you a nice fruit basket today.
I do too, because you've earned it. Mike Gallagher, listen, is a 4-term moderate Republican. He's a veteran. He's supposed to be somebody that Republicans respect, and yet they have so disrespected him and the institutions that he claims to love that's why he's leaving Congress, right? He was one of the few people to vote against the baseless, stupid impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, and just the constant extremism from the Republican Party, thanks to Donald Trump, and thanks to Laura Ingraham, by the way, a notorious Trump ally. They drove Gallagher away. Ingram and Trump, you need only look at yourselves. You all have an obligation to court these moderate voters, just as much as you all say the Democrats do, right? You drove Gallagher away, and I think it's hilarious that he effectively gave you all the finger on the way out. That's your fault. Do better.
By summer, I think there's a distinct possibility that Democrats will have the House majority. The press, the liberals, they're salivating. This is like taking candy from a baby. Before Gallagher's announcement, our own Chad Pergram wrote, there will be 432 members, 218 Republicans to 214 Democrats. The margin is 4 seats, but the GOP cannot lose 2 votes and still pass a bill without help from across the aisle. Again, tie votes come into play. Republicans will be down to only a solitary vote to spare. In other words, now they don't have any votes to spare.
No, that's why you all should get your act together, start actually functioning as a unit, work bipartisanly with House Democrats and Republicans in the Senate and President Biden. But again, you all don't want to do that. You all have created the circumstances which are resulting in this effective 1-seat majority. Again, no sympathy for you, Laura.
Now, I've been in Washington, and this is depressing to report, but 30 years. I have never witnessed what I'm witnessing now. A party with a narrow majority in the House of Representatives, everything on the line in the country, but committing a slow suicide, the party. This is why conservatives call the GOP the stupid party, by the way.
Everybody should be calling the GOP the stupid party. Again, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that the Republican Party is without talent, that the Republican Party isn't dangerous. They do have talent and they are dangerous. But they're stupid when it comes to running things. Again, I've said this before. Give the devil his due. They're brilliant at setting the narrative. That's a great thing that they excel at, to the detriment of the rest of us. They're good at setting the terms of the messaging war. They're good at scoring political attacks. But when it comes to actually wielding power responsibly and effectively, they suck. They've sucked for decades. This is nothing new. And so it's so funny to see Laura, who apparently she says she's been in Washington for decades, but she's ignored the GOP's, increasing inability to responsibly govern. And she's completely oblivious, or tends to be completely oblivious, perhaps, to the role that she helped play in setting the stage for this.
But let's look at the bright side. No, it's Friday for Republicans. Soon there's going to be no need to worry about motions to vacate the speaker's chair because they won't have a chair to vacate. And that's the end.
Love that. It's entirely possible that through attrition, especially if there are other resignations, we may very well end up with a speaker, Hakeem Jeffries. Unlikely, but possible. Now, here are the clips, I want to play two, in which she interviews former Republican Speaker Newt Gingrich. And I'll say this. I've said this before in previous videos. Mitch McConnell took Newt Gingrich's playbook of obstruction and, again, partisan politics, and he refined it. But as far as I'm concerned, yes, if you look at what the Republican Party has become, you could easily identify, even though it's on a continuum, right? You could easily identify Newt Gingrich as the first phase of the de-evolution of what the Republican Party has become, because during the Clinton administration, he engaged in sort of the rough draft of the partisan spectacle politics that we see from Republicans today. We're going to play two clips and unpack them together.
I don't blame Johnson. I think Speaker Johnson has a hand that's virtually impossible to play. And that's where I think some of the people just make it worse. This is the best argument I've seen for why we need not only to elect Donald Trump, but to elect a very large majority with him.
Yeah, I'm sure you do all need that. That way you have, a surplus. But the idea that this is the best argument for electing Trump, Trump is the reason Trump is the primary reason today you have the GOP. Newt Gingrich got the ball rolling. Mitch McConnell, again, took the playbook, refined it. Donald Trump is the culmination of their efforts and the MAGA movement in terms of dysfunctional partisan conservative politics. Like, getting Trump in the first place is what brought the GOP ultimately to this point. And the logic seems so bizarre here. The dysfunction and chaos that Trump's Republican Party has created is just a great argument as to why we need more Trump. No, you probably need less Trump. You probably need a hard reset of what the Republican Party has become. But Newt Gingrich seems to have no self-awareness, much like the host of the show.
You have to decide. Sooner or later, you're going to realize the bills have been worse since McCarthy was gone. The Democrats are in greater control. The hardliners on the right have done nothing except make it worse. The Freedom Caucus right now has been a disaster in public policy terms. If you think your job in life is to grandstand and complain while the other team runs over you, they're doing a great job.
That's what Trump does. Again, Newt, what are you talking about? That's Trump right there. Grandstand and complain while the other team runs over you. Donald Trump's presidency was dangerous, but he was nowhere near as effective as he could have been had he been a competent administrator, negotiator, and legislator, right? He didn't fulfill but a fraction of his campaign. I mean, he didn't build the wall. He didn't repeal and replace Obamacare. And don't get me wrong, I'm glad all of these things he failed at, but again, Donald Trump created this. Donald Trump is the culmination of this grandstanding and ineffective complaining. The Freedom Caucus that you so despise, the vast majority of them are loyal to Donald Trump. They are the Trump surrogates in the House of Representatives. So all of this is just so bizarre. It's like Newt Gingrich wants to have his cake and eat it too. He's like, yeah, we need more sensible, moderate, responsible, effective governance, which is the antithesis of Donald Trump. But he also can't be seen as publicly disloyal to Donald Trump, so he's publicly calling for more Donald Trump. All of this is so bizarre, but listen, I love the outrage, I love the despair, I love the bitterness coming from particularly Laura Ingraham, and hopefully we'll see more of it as time goes on. Let me know what you think in the comments.